Hi guys, welcome back to our next installment for our mini vid lectures. What I wanted to do today to start and maybe start off a little differently is to start with this quote that says, "Civilization is a limitless multiplication of unnecessary necessities." This quote has been given by Mark Twain, or was said by Mark Twain, and part of what we need to understand about civilization is that most times in a civilization we have different things that maybe are not necessarily basic needs. They're wants. They're things that we would like to have. They're maybe unnecessary necessities. They're things that we maybe think we need and want to have, but they're not absolutely necessary to our survival. And so I think this quote kind of illustrates that for us, that civilization is a limitless multiplication, a endless supply of things that maybe we want but are unnecessarily wanted by us. And so things that we want that we don't necessarily need to survive, that's what civilization is kind of all about. When you have that surplus to do those extra things and you have time to do those extra things, you come up with stuff that is maybe not necessary to survival, basic survival, but we want them anyway because we have the time and the resources to get them. And so I really love this quote. I think it's a good way to start and get into probably our last mini vid for this first module on civilizations. And so the title of this mini vid is Civilizations. The objective, when you're all done with this video, you should be able to identify 3 known early American civilizations and discuss the factors that go along with them. And we should be able to classify them as a civilization. Now the question becomes, how do you classify them? And so the first thing that we need to kind of get down into our notes here is that we have 5 general characteristics that we use in order to classify civilizations. There can be more, but these are the 5 that if you have these 5 things, examples of these 5 things, chances are you probably are dealing with a civilization, and not just a nomadic group or a domesticated culture area. What we're dealing with is a civilized group of people. And the question was always being asked, was there civilized people in North America prior to European groups coming here? And the answer to this question is yes, and we know because we have a variety of groups, but these 3 groups in particular, which are the Maya, Inca, and Aztec. And so the first thing we need to do, make sure we identify what the 5 characteristics are. And so number 1, our first characteristic is the creation of cities. Because you have population increasing because of a surplus of food, you have more people. These people are going to start to collect together and live near each other so that they can get access to that food. And as you do that, this is where you see the creation of cities. The next characteristic is you have what's called record keeping. Some way, shape, or form to write down or make an image for what is going on in your society. And so each group is going to have a different way of record keeping. Typically, early native cultures are doing this through oral traditions, and they're passing their history down from one generation to the next orally. What civilizations are going to start to do is they're going to start to record them physically. So either through hieroglyphics or creation of an alphabet or a number system, there's going to need some sort of system to keep records. Thirdly, you'll see here specialized workers. Civilizations are civilizations because not everybody is subsistence farming. They're not just farming to meet their own personal family needs. Because of surplus of food, people have time to do other things. And because they have time to do other things, they become specialized. So it's here that we see roles in society being developed, like priests, nobles, government officials, doctors, you name it. Anything pretty much other than farmers are considered specialized workers. They have a specialized function for your society and your job. Number 4 is going to be advanced technology. And so something more than just primitive tools, um, like bones and shells, um, to maybe plant or to farm crops. Now you're going to have some sort of advanced technology to help you adapt and overcome and to maybe survive and give you a better chance to survive in places where you normally would not be able to. The fifth area is complex institutions. These are things, or systems I should say, that allow people to get along in their lives and function. Many of these things are so ingrained into society, and I apologize that kind of goes over into your map to the right there, that people don't even think about them. And so things like government and things like religion are two of the biggest areas that we would classify as complex institutions. Things that help explain your existence, help run society so that people aren't injuring each other. These are your 5 areas that if you have these things, you probably are dealing with a civilization. And so our first characteristic, not to waste any time, deals with that of the existence of cities. And so while the civilizations that we're dealing with here are the Aztec, Maya, and the Inca, we are going to make sure that we identify some examples of these. And so the first one is going to be for the Aztec, for example, over here on your map. I'm going to try and write this in blue. You're going to see the Aztec civilization right here in central Mexico, and their capital city was referred to as Tenochtitlan. And this is going to be their city that was built inside of a lake on an island. And so again, you have existence of a city. The Maya are going to be out here. They're going to be in green. Their capital city was Tikal. Again, another place where a lot of people met and were surrounded in the same general area, a sign that population is growing and that they're sharing resources. And then lastly, in red, we have a couple different cities down here. The Inca were located down in the South American continent by the Andes Mountains. There's 2 cities down there, Cuzco and Machu Picchu. And both of these cities are going to be major cities for the civilization of the Inca. Again, characteristics are just the things that show civilizations exist, and we're going to take a look at the other characteristics quickly. Cities being the first one, those are your examples. In terms of the second characteristic, we're going to be talking about record keeping. And so up here we have the Aztec, and this is a picture of pictographs, or sometimes also referred to as hieroglyphics. And this is what the Aztec are going to use to kind of tell their history, record their history down so that we know what happened and so that they could communicate with each other. And so every symbol on here has a word, and those words can be translated into other languages. But the Aztec definitely have examples of hieroglyphics. The next group down here is the Mayan. They have what's called Mayan math, and you can see that they have a system that correlates to our number system. For example, right here, 1 dot equals the number 1, 2 dots equals 2, 3 dots equal the number 3. And they develop a system with different symbols so that they can record numerically how much stuff they have. And that comes into play. So, for example, you can record like censuses and which is population of your city, so that you know how much food to grow, so that you can feed everybody. This is a picture, if you move over here to the right, this is a picture of the Mayan calendar. Another way to keep record, to track the phases of the moon, so that you know when to plant, when to harvest, and what the weather is going to be like at certain times. And this is the one that gets all the hype for the world ending in 2012, which actually did not happen. But again, another example of record keeping. If we move up to the upper right hand corner of your screen, the Inca, this is a rope, knotted rope system that the Inca used to keep records. This was called a quipu, and this thing kind of works like every knot in the rope has a story to tell. And so as they would travel from city to city, they would take this rope with them, kind of like a wampum belt, for example, that the Iroquois used, and each knot has a message that goes along with it. And so you can see all three of these groups, the Aztec, the Maya, and the Inca, all have a given form of record keeping. The next group here is, or category, excuse me, is specialized workers. These go along very much so with complex institutions, in that specialized workers are also part of different systems like government and religion, etc. And so what you'll see from the Aztec is their specialized workers that were not farmers often boiled down to being part of the royalty. And again, they're in here, right here, but I'm just going to rewrite them. Nobility, or nobles, this is more government officials. You're going to have warriors, that's different than, say, a farmer. And then you have commoners down here, which is last. And these are going to be people like your merchants and your artisans, people that make stuff. Okay? These are specialized workers. Now, if you jump over here to the Mayan category, this is the Mayan right here. This is Maya, and this is Inca. The Mayan group also has a very similar social structure. They have a king on top, government workers. They have a council. This is often part of the royal family. Sometimes these are priests. I know you can probably not see that very well, but these are like priests, very high up on the social structure. Important because you have to keep the gods happy. If you don't keep the gods happy, the food doesn't come. You also have nobles, merchants, artisans, and then down here you have some commoners, and there you come to your farmers. Kind of interesting that the farmers, the one that make all the food, are at the bottom of the social structure. And then lastly over here, the Inca, you have again the governor or the government on top, the emperor you have in here as well, followed by nobles, and then finally commoners, which is your artisans as well. Again, specialized workers, people that do not necessarily farm to get their own food. Advanced technology is the next category. The Aztec, we'll start with the Aztec over here on the left. These are the floating gardens that Aztec used. Considering they lived on an island, their capital city was on an island, they created these floating gardens, often referred to as chinampas. They kind of adapted to their surrounding, considered advanced technology because you're not just throwing them in the ground. You actually have to construct something to adapt to meet your basic needs. And so the adaptation here is they are building a floating garden. This picture down below is a picture of what we call a causeway. Because they did live on an island, they had to find some way to get across the water to the island, to get maybe to trade or to interact with other communities. And so this area right here is referred to as a causeway. It's just a built up land that you can use for roads. And this is obviously advanced technology because you're engineering something here that maybe doesn't naturally exist. The next group on our list is the Mayan, again showing advanced technology by using what we call slash and burn. Not something that is naturally a natural occurrence. So slash and burn is a huge farming method. Again, adapting to the jungle. Adapting to the jungle to meet their basic needs. It's huge. Down below is one of the Mayan temples. Again, to engineer this and to move stone in rock to create this type of structure shows advanced engineering. Simple-minded people are not going to be able to design and build something of that nature. And then our last group over here is the Inca. And again, I think a lot of us know this already. This is referred to as terrace farming. And again, the adaptation is you are going to artificially cut places to farm into the side of the mountain. This is a huge adaptation, adapting to the environment to meet their basic needs. And then in addition to this, down here, and I know this picture is hard to see, but you have drawbridges or rope bridges to get from one mountainside to the next. Not a simple idea to come up with or to execute, showing advanced technology. And then this picture down here is a picture of their road system. From city to city, we have actual roads, not just trails, but actual roads to improve transportation. Pretty advanced technology for these native groups. And then I believe this is our last one, complex institution, which is government and religion specifically. You have things like, starting with the Aztec, you have government systems where you start with the king on the top over here, and it goes all the way down to the commoners on the bottom. Commoners. This type of system is what's created when you're trying to keep law and order. And in addition to this, in terms of religion, they're going to use, specifically the Aztec and the Mayan are going to use human sacrifice to keep gods happy. Again, religion and government are just ways to explain how to live. That's what government and religion are. And so each group is going to have their explanation. Religious-wise, we got to keep the gods happy, so we're going to use human sacrifice. This is going to be our laws, our power structure. King's going to be on top, commoners down below. If we move over to the Inca here in the middle, the Inca are here in the middle, you have a similar power structure, which we've already talked about. Most Native American groups and even civilizations, you'll see, believe in many gods. This is called being polytheistic. Polytheistic means belief in many gods. And so part of the religion here is making sure that we honor many religions / gods, making sure we honor multiple gods to keep every part of society going. And then lastly, the Incan social structure, very similar, rulers on top, make sure we get that down, nobles followed by commoners, so we can come right down the list. Feel free to draw any of these charts into your notes if you would like as well. And then specifically with groups like the Inca and the Mayan, the Aztec, the sun god was probably the god that they had to keep happy, because sun gives them food and food provides them basic needs. And so again, taking a look at some of these groups, and are they civilizations? I think the answer to that is obviously an overwhelming yes. They have cities. They have record keeping. They have advanced technology. They have specialized workers, and they have complex institutions. So I know this was a little bit longer podcast. Thank you for bearing with me. Really cool stuff, though, when you really break down civilizations and try to explain why they are what they are. As we move into the next module, when we bring European groups over, we're going to see how these civilizations kind of coexist and start to culturally diffuse. So I can't wait to get into that. Make sure you review any of these videos for your test that is coming up, and I appreciate you listening. If you have any questions, you can get back at me and let me know. Thanks a lot, guys. We'll talk to you soon. Bye-bye.